We've all heard different opinions from people around us who work out, or from fitness forums on the internet. And about half of those opinions have been wrong for the last 20 years. Yet somehow, they're still repeated as if they were sacred knowledge. Today, we're going to break down 10 of the most common myths in the fitness world. Where did they come from? Why do people believe them? And what does actual science say? Let's get started. More sweat means more fat loss. You finish a workout completely drenched and feel like you've burned an entire week's worth of calories. But here's the problem. Sweat is simply your body's cooling system. That's its only job. How much you sweat depends on the temperature, humidity, how many sweat glands you personally have, and how well hydrated you are. It has almost nothing to do with how many calories you've burned. Someone doing a light yoga session in a hot room can easily sweat more than someone doing an intense weightlifting workout in an air-conditioned gym. Yet the person lifting weights is probably expending more energy. Sweating a lot simply means your body is regulating its temperature. You must consume protein within 30 minutes after training. Because of this myth, thousands of people rush to their protein shakes the second they finish their workout. The original idea came from studies showing that muscle protein synthesis increases after training, and that nutrients consumed during this period are used efficiently. That part is true. What got lost along the way was how wide that window actually is. Current research shows that the anabolic window is much closer to 4 to 6 hours, not 30 minutes. Your muscles don't slam the door shut and reject protein after half an hour. If you trained fasted and eat a solid meal within a few hours, you're getting almost all of the benefits. Your total daily protein intake matters far more than trying to beat an imaginary 30-minute deadline. Fasted cardio burns more fat. We covered this in detail in our cardio video, but it's worth mentioning again because this myth refuses to die. Yes, during a fasted cardio session, your body uses a higher percentage of fat as fuel. However, research consistently shows that when you look at a full 24-hour period, total fat loss is nearly identical between fasted and fed cardio. Your body compensates later in the day. The extra fat burned during the workout is misleading because the remaining 23 hours often make up for that difference. Carbs make you fat. Carbohydrates have been blamed for the obesity epidemic more than any other macronutrient. But this idea doesn't even hold up against basic physics. Fat gain happens when you consistently consume more calories than you burn over time. It doesn't matter where those calories come from. Carbohydrates don't magically turn into body fat unless you're in a significant calorie surplus. Even then, the process is much less efficient than most people think. Countries that traditionally consumed high carbohydrate diets, such as many rice-based diets across Asia, historically had very low obesity rates before processed Western foods became widespread. The problem was never carbohydrates themselves. The problem was excessive calorie intake and the highly processed carbohydrate sources that are incredibly easy to overeat in modern diets. Spot reduction is possible. Spot reduction is one of the most persistent myths in fitness history. People believe that doing crunches will specifically burn belly fat, or that tricep extensions will melt fat off their arms. The biological reality is different. When you're in a calorie deficit, your body pulls stored fat from all over. This process is largely determined by genetics and hormones, not by which muscle you happen to train that day. Doing thousands of crunches will absolutely strengthen your abdominal muscles, but it won't specifically burn the layer of fat sitting on top of them. Multiple studies where participants intensely trained a single limb while measuring fat loss across the body have repeatedly confirmed this. Fat loss is a whole body process. Exercise determines which muscles get stronger, not which fat cells get used for energy. If you stop training, muscle turns into fat. This sounds almost like basic chemistry, but biologically it's impossible. Muscle tissue and fat tissue are completely different types of cells. Muscle turning into fat is about as possible as a wooden chair turning into a glass of water. What actually happens when you stop training is that two separate processes occur at the same time. Muscle tissue gradually shrinks and atrophies because it no longer receives the stimulus needed to maintain it. At the same time, if you continue eating the same amount of food while burning fewer calories due to reduced activity and slightly lower muscle mass, you begin storing fat. These two processes happening together create the illusion of transformation. But the muscle you worked hard to build didn't become fat. It simply shrank, and fat was added separately. Creatine damages your kidneys. We talked about this in our supplements video, but it deserves a place here because it's still one of the most common fears in gyms. Numerous long-term studies conducted on healthy individuals using standard doses of creatine monohydrate have found no negative effects on kidney function. Part of the confusion comes from the fact that creatine supplementation can slightly increase creatinine levels in blood tests. Creatinine is a marker doctors use to assess kidney function. However, this increase is simply a natural byproduct of creatine metabolism, not actual kidney damage. If you have a pre-existing kidney condition, that's a separate discussion to have with your doctor. For the average healthy person, decades of research show that creatine is one of the safest and most well-studied supplements available. BCAAs build muscle. Branched-chain amino acids, or BCAAs, became incredibly popular thanks to aggressive supplement marketing built around partial truths. Yes, BCAAs play a role in muscle protein synthesis. But here's what the marketing leaves out. Whey protein, chicken, eggs, and almost every complete protein source already contain these amino acids in large amounts. In many cases, they provide them in better ratios alongside all the other essential amino acids your body needs to build muscle. Taking isolated BCAA supplements on top of adequate protein intake provides little to no additional muscle building benefit, according to most research. It's like buying a single ingredient separately for a meal you've already cooked. If your total protein intake is sufficient, BCAA supplements are mostly an expensive way to feel like you're doing something extra. Muscle soreness means better muscle growth. Delayed onset muscle soreness, that stiff and achy feeling you get a day or two after a workout, is often treated like a badge of honor. No pain, no gain, right? In reality, the relationship between soreness and muscle growth is much weaker than people think. Muscle soreness is primarily caused by microscopic damage and inflammation within muscle tissue. This often happens when your body is exposed to movements it's not used to, or when muscles are stretched under load. As your body adapts to a specific exercise over time, the soreness from that movement decreases significantly, yet your strength and muscle size can continue increasing. Experienced lifters often experience very little soreness from their regular training, while still making consistent progress. Soreness tells you that something was different or intense. It does not reliably tell you how much muscle you've built. Eating small, frequent meals boosts your metabolism. This myth convinced an entire generation to eat 6 small meals a day in order to keep their metabolic fire burning. The theory was that eating frequently prevents your metabolism from slowing down between meals. However, research directly testing this idea has shown that meal frequency has little to no meaningful impact on total daily calorie expenditure. The primary drivers of metabolic rate are your total food intake, body composition, and activity level, not how many times you divide your food throughout the day. 3 large meals and 6 small meals containing the same calories and macronutrients produce essentially the same metabolic outcome. The ideal meal frequency is simply whatever helps you stick to your nutrition plan and manage your hunger most effectively. There is no hidden metabolic magic in how many times you eat each day. Those were 10 of the biggest myths that are still circulating in gyms all around the world. Some of them have been debunked for more than a decade, yet they're still repeated as if they were facts. In this industry, knowing the difference between what sounds true and what is actually supported by research is half the battle. I'll continue making educational videos like this. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. I'll see you in the next video.